Welcome back to Klepper's Corner Today in History, the show where we look at the entire span of human civilization and say, wow, we really woke up and chose chaos every single January 4th. It's a date that simultaneously brings us closer to the sun, farther from good decision-making, and just close enough to Viking warfare to make everyone uncomfortable. So buckle up, because January 4th has perihelion, Mars rovers, collapsing empires, collapsing buildings, collapsing political systems, and, for good measure, a psychedelic rock band telling America to light something on fire, which, honestly, feels on brand. Let's dive in. Segment 1. The universe says, scoot closer, sweetheart. Perihelion and Newton. January 4th is often the date Earth swings into perihelion, the closest we get to the sun all year, which really raises the question, why does winter arrive at the one time we're closest to a giant nuclear fireball? That's like standing next to a bonfire and somehow getting colder. It's the astronomical equivalent of buying a space heater and discovering it only works if you stand on the roof. But the universe said, hey, you know what would make this confusing orbital mechanic even more fun? Let's also make it the birthday of the man who explained gravity. Yes, Isaac Newton, born January 4th, 1643, Gregorian calendar. The man who saw an apple fall and said, I'm going to invent calculus about this. Meanwhile, when I see fruit fall, I think, well, guess I'm sweeping later. Newton gave us motion, optics, calculus, basically everything high school students curse about. And he did it in the 1600s, while England argued over what calendar to use. Truly, the real miracle is that he became a genius instead of wasting his life yelling at a bureaucrat about time zones. Segment 2, Spirit Rover, the little Martian car that said, I can do more than 90 days. On January 4th, 2004, NASA's Spirit rover landed on Mars, successfully bouncing across the surface inside what looked like the world's least popular beach ball. Engineers called it 6 minutes of terror, which is also how most people describe their yearly dental cleaning. Spirit was meant to last 90 days. It lasted 6 years because it kept getting lucky with dust devils cleaning off its solar panels. Yes, this robot survived thanks to Mars having the cosmic equivalent of Roomba activity. Meanwhile, on Earth, I can't keep a phone alive for 48 hours. Spirit found silica deposits, carbonates, and evidence of hydrothermal systems. Basically, it rolled up to Mars and said, hey everyone, this planet used to have hot tubs. And suddenly, Mars looked less like a dead desert and more like a poorly advertised wellness resort. Segment 3. When one space object arrived, another left. Sputnik burns up. While Spirit was landing, another piece of history exited stage left. January 4th, 1958. Sputnik 1 finally burned up in the atmosphere. The first satellite. The red beeping dot of doom. The object that made the U.S. say, wait, they have space now? We are behind? Who do we blame? Sputnik's demise didn't end the space race. It launched NASA, science funding, and an entire generation of kids terrified the Soviets might beam propaganda into their cereal bowls. It was a public panic so intense, the government basically said, fine, here's NASA, go touch the moon. Segment 4, the post-colonial birthday party. Burma declares independence. January 4th, 1948. Burma says, hey Britain, thanks for the memories, the tea, and the extremely complicated ethnic map you left behind. We're good now. And Britain, exhausted from granting independence to roughly 3 new countries per week, said, fine, take it, but please stop sending us paperwork. Burma became Myanmar, a fully sovereign republic outside the Commonwealth. And immediately, and I mean immediately, civil conflict erupted. The paint wasn't even dry on the independence banner before insurgent groups said, actually, we prefer a different deal. It's like moving into your first apartment and the neighbors instantly start a street brawl involving a broken lawn chair and a megaphone. Segment 5, Utah, the state that had to promise it would behave. January 4th, 1896. Utah finally becomes a state after 49 years of the federal government asking, Are you done with that plural marriage thing yet? No? Okay, we'll check back in a decade. The government threw everything at them. The Morrill Act, the Edmunds Act, the Edmunds-Tucker Act. Basically, the legislative version of "we're turning this car around." Utah eventually said, "Fine, we'll stop the thing. Please let us in." And after a constitutional promise banning polygamy forever, Washington finally said, "All right, get in the union, but no funny business." Celebrations erupted. 2 gunshots went off as a prearranged signal, which is possibly the most Utah way to handle a major civic announcement. Segment 6, the American West gets a faster trigger. Colt's revolver contract. January 4th, 1847, Samuel Colt sells his first batch of revolvers to the U.S. government. These went to the Texas Rangers, because if anyone needed more firepower in frontier America, it was definitely those guys. The Walker Colt could fire 6 shots without reloading. This changed warfare, hunting, and bar fights forever. It also turned Colt into the firearm equivalent of Apple computers. Congratulations, history said. You're now a household name because reloading sucks. Segment 7, the Burj Khalifa. When a building says, "Look at me." January 4th, 2010, Dubai unveils the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building and the architectural manifestation of, yeah, but what if we built it more? This tower is so tall that birds look up at it and file complaints. It required new engineering breakthroughs, ice-cooled concrete, and a design that confuses the wind. Yes, the building uses geometry to gaslight the atmosphere. And then, in a dramatic twist, Dubai renamed it Burj Khalifa because Abu Dhabi bailed them out during a financial crisis. It's the only skyscraper in the world named out of sheer gratitude or economic indebtedness, depending on your reading of the bill. Segment 8, political history. Kings, presidents, and one very nervous House Speaker. January 4th has big political energy. 1642. King Charles I storms into the House of Commons with 400 soldiers to arrest 5 MPs. He finds no one because they left. Charles basically rage quit separation of powers, and England said, "Okay, civil war it is." 1790. George Washington gives the first State of the Union. Brief, functional, no shouting, no reality TV energy. Truly a forgotten era. 1965. Lyndon Johnson lays out the Great Society in prime time. Medicare, Medicaid, voting rights. A man treating Congress like a captive studio audience. 2007. Nancy Pelosi becomes the first female Speaker of the House. For the first time ever, the presidential line of succession gets a serious upgrade in project management. Segment 9, culture. Braille, Billboard, and The Doors tell America to get weird. January 4th celebrates the birth of Louis Braille, who completely revolutionized literacy for the blind. While most of us struggle to read our own handwriting, Braille invented an entire tactile language by age 15. Then, in 1936, Billboard published its first ever music chart, the Hit Parade, giving America its favorite pastime, arguing about which song deserved #1 and why Billboard is wrong. And in 1967, The Doors dropped their debut album, including Light My Fire and the 11-minute fever dream, The End, a track so wild it sounds like someone tried to record a poetry reading inside a lava lamp. Segment 10. Disasters and tragedies, because history loves mood swings. January 4th has some painful moments too. 1990, Pakistan suffers its deadliest train crash. Over 300 lives lost due to outdated systems and overburdened railways. 1998, the Great Ice Storm crushes power grids across Canada and New York. Trees fell, towers snapped, and everyone suddenly learned that candles are not a luxury item, they're survival gear. 1903, Topsy the elephant is executed at Coney Island, in a tragic and disturbing spectacle often misattributed to Edison. It remains a dark chapter in both entertainment and early film. 1965, Albert Camus and T.S. Eliot die on the same date. The existentialist and the modernist exit within hours of each other. January 4th apparently is not messing around. Segment 11, battles, retreats, and why Vikings shouldn't be your weekend plans. 871, the Battle of Reading, Saxons versus Vikings. Spoiler, Vikings win this round, but Alfred the Great eventually gets his comeback arc. Think of it as medieval Game of Thrones, except everyone is equally bad at laundry. 1951, Third Battle of Seoul. Chinese and North Korean forces retake the city. UN forces retreat. Refugees flee across the icy Han River. A reminder that winter war is the worst idea ever conceived by humanity. In conclusion, January 4th is not just a date. It's a cosmic reminder that humanity ping-pongs between genius, chaos, ambition, tragedy, rebellion, inspiration, and occasionally giant skyscrapers built out of spite. It's a day where we get closer to the sun, celebrate the birth of modern physics, welcome new nations, lose old satellites, topple power lines, honor literacy, build monuments, and fight battles we definitely didn't schedule. It's a day that proves one thing. History does not take days off. It just pours everything into January 4th.